Welcome to the Au Jus. I'm your host, Beef Loaf. This show is being powered by From the 108 and FromThe108.com, where you can get all of our content, top to bottom, blogs, podcasts, and videos, including the world-famous Sunday Soak. You can also get all of our merch there as well, including the infamous Wave Sucks and hashtag 108 in Garbs. Currently, we are selling a Wave Sucks beanie at FromThe108.com. They are $23. Perfect for winter, and Jeff Passan approved. This show is powered by you, the loyal 108 supporter. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Feel free to tickle the undercarriage in the process. Like, comment, turn on notifications, and most definitely super chat, because that's how we get paid, and that's how we continue to make the content you know and love. Tonight's guest... needs no introduction. He's the host of the 108 podcast, and from a Southside point of view, he's the star of the Sunday Soak, as well as being one of the sharpest minds in White Sox Twitter. And despite his dashing silver fox exterior, he's actually my baby brother. Chorizy-E, welcome back to the Au Jus, my friend.
That picture's great.
That picture, you're like really engaged, and it's like at most games you're like, fuck everybody, but in a fun way. And this one, you're like. Yes, hell yes, I'm on it. And you're like blind Melon Chitlin with the glasses on too. Like you're queued up there, man.
It's possible the Sox even scored a run or two that game, so I was excited. I was having a good time.
Not entirely likely, but yes, it is possible. Yeah, I wanted to bring you on, and we're gonna do this the next 3 weeks in a row. We're gonna trot out a very famous for us blog segment. We do a blog, White Sox Trades with every team. And we started doing it just to exercise our fucking minds and figure out what was out there. And as we were doing it, people fucking loved it. And we get a lot of feedback on it, and people have a lot of thoughts. Sometimes they think we're fucking idiots with the trades we make. Sometimes, they end up using their trades in the Sox Machine offseason plan. So we figured, let's just bring it straight to the blog. So when we're going to debut these here, we'll throw the blogs out there kind of after the fact. We'll do 2 divisions tonight. We'll do 2 divisions next Monday and 2 divisions that following Monday. Wanted to bring this up quickly as we start this because it's sort of the impetus for it when we were thinking about this. A long time ago, I was listening to an interview with Phil Ivey. I'm a big poker guy. And the interviewer asked Phil Ivey, and I'm paraphrasing here, how would you recommend a player learning the game and getting better as fast as possible? And Phil said just buy into a game at lower stakes than you normally would play and play every single hand for an hour. Try and figure out how you play from all these different hands and different positions and situations, things that you're not normally taught. So in that spirit, we just decided, let's undertake this thing because the Sox are not going to have a good fit with every single fucking team. But our thought was, fuck it, we're going to try to make sense of it, right?
Yeah, and this is how I learn every team's roster and what they're going in. I think last year we said it, or at least I said it when we were going into that, is that I didn't really learn... I didn't really see a fit for the Red Sox and White Sox to trade, right. But I felt like the Red Sox had some of the biggest decisions to make in that offseason. And you saw Red Sox fans being upset that they were so silent in the offseason, right? They did the Devers extension, but really not a whole lot else. And
yep.
That's how you get fired.
Yeah, exactly. That's how you end up on the street. No, you're totally right. This is a great way to get an understanding of what's going on with all the teams in the league. I mean, at a minimum, people should be thinking about this or thinking through this at least in the Sox division, so you get an idea of what the White Sox are up against. I think sometimes we kind of rest back on knowing a lot about our team, especially analysts, not necessarily fans, but other people that analyze. This is a great exercise, in my personal opinion. So. Sit back, relax, and strap it down, if you will. We'll start getting into these trades immediately. And the way I'm going to do it, or the way we'll do it is, whoever trade it is, we'll present it. I'll pop up an image of that trade, talk through it for a few minutes, and then we'll discuss afterwards. So I'll start. We're going to lead off with the AL Central. I'll start. I made a trade with the Minnesota Twins. I sent Andrew Vaughn, not because I hate him. I sent Andrew Vaughn and Aaron Bummer to the Twins for Emmanuel Rodriguez, Tanner Schobel, and Brent Hedrick. And the reason why I sent this is I was thinking about the Twins and just looking at their roster, and, surprisingly, Andrew Vaughn would have led them in RBIs by a mile. They did not really have a stable sort of middle-of-the-order presence with, a combination of just kind of a volatile roster and a lot of injuries here. A fit like Andrew Vaughn, even with Alex Kirilloff, who's been often injured and who I guess would be their first baseman going into next year, but he just had shoulder surgery. Just sort of makes sense that they would want some stability for the position. He has control, so it's like you're not just signing a 1 or 2 year scrap heap guy and hoping that it kind of works for you. He's got the pedigree as well. Aaron Bummer's in this trade because a team with any bit of a decent infield defense, which the Twins tend to have, could benefit more from Aaron Bummer than the White Sox. My return here, Emmanuel Rodriguez is the key to this return. He's effectively a center fielder, but may end up being a fourth outfielder. Strikes out a lot, but has great plate discipline, can cover all the outfield spots. He's got some pop, but it all going to really hinge on that strikeout rate. He's a little undersized, too, about 5'10", and then the other two guys are more the throw-ins. Tanner Schobel is a shortstop, college shortstop who's been playing all over the place. He's probably a utility player. He's got a tiny bit of pop. He kind of knows what he's doing. Think if Zach Remillard had anything to offer at the plate. And then Brent Hidrick is one of these guys who wouldn't break a plate glass window with his fastball. He's a real soft tosser lefty, but he's major league ready. And the White Sox are fucking dying for major league ready pitching. Chorizy, what do you think about trading Andrew Vaughn there?
Yeah, when I looked at the Twins, the trade that I was going to make was going to be Kirilloff for Jimenez, just to say, are there two guys in the major leagues that are not asked to move at all, but get injured constantly? Right. But yeah, I like the two guys you trade here are interesting to me in the sense that I don't know how other teams are going to value them. And that's like trying to put Aaron Bummer into a trade has been very difficult as I've been looking at different things. He's a lefty guy who gets a ton of ground balls, but his results are horrible.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. The walk rate was bad, but you're right. Even when the walk rate isn't as horrible, the results just seem to not line up for him.
And I mean, there's a couple things, right? Like there is the fact that the Sox don't field very well, so throwing a lot of ground balls with that team behind you isn't great. And you touched on this before, is that he doesn't field well. Like he's so wild off the mound that it's problematic for who he is.
Yeah,
right? You'd think you'd want a guy like Mark Burley fielding when you pitch like that.
When you throw like that. Yeah, absolutely. No, and actually that's Wendell from White Sox Twitter has told me that on multiple occasions. He's like, the main problem with Bummer is he can't field this position. And when you throw a lot of grounders like that, you have to be a good defender, and he's a horrible defender. I looked it up fairly recently, and by defensive run saves, he's like the worst Sox pitcher defender. It's like he didn't pitch that many innings, and he stinks at this. So you're right. It's like you look at Bummer and you think, we're ready to throw him out. Like most White Sox fans are sick of him, but I think he probably has some residual value on another roster, and that's why I kind of he could be a throw-in to me on some of these deals.
I get that, and I think that's maybe how you get Hedrick into this or Hedrick. I don't know how to say his name.
I don't either.
But Emmanuel Rodriguez, I guess the question for me, if we're going to trade Andrew Vaughn for him, and I know Beef, you and I are not big Andrew Vaughn guys. I'm still not even sure he's from this planet after his Halloween answers today. But he is still he does have some utility to the team, and he did drive in a lot of runs this year. So he's a good player. So if I'm getting Emmanuel Rodriguez with how bad the bat is, he's got to be an elite center fielder. Right. And because you got to consider, if you're bringing in a center fielder that you want to put on the 26 and be a starter, hopefully, he's got to be good enough in center field to move Luis over to right field. And that's where I would question it. That's if I'm questioning this trade, I would say this guy has to be a starting fielder and a better center fielder than Luis.
Yeah, that's fair. I got nothing there. I mean, the plate discipline, on base skills should help it, but I agree with you. I'm not sure. You can't be running 35% K rates. It was 29% last year. K rate in the minors. That's a lot. That's and that's not you're inches from the majors and you have Pete Alonso's power. It's just a step back a little bit.
If the power profile is there and it's 29%, I'll be like, let's see. But if it's I can't hit, and I've got this strikeout rate. But we'll get to some of my guys because they're definitely in that camp.
I was gonna say, well, let's get your first one up here. Let's get the Guardians trade. I'll let you explain. Trade with the Guardians.
Yeah, so the Guardians, the Guardians are not a fit for the White Sox to trade with. They just are not. And neither team would really trade anything of great value to each other, right? If you're really thinking about how this would work. But you just picked up Kai Busch. I think Kai Busch is expendable. He's still held in some high regard, as having some pedigree. Like he's supposed to be really good. I don't see it, but he is a left-handed starter, and people like left-handed starters. So I'm thinking, can we flip this guy before everybody realizes he's not good? And you look at the Guardians, and this was kind of a pick whichever one you want. They have a glut of middle infield guys.
Yeah, they sure do.
That are strong gloves. Strong gloves. And the hitting is suspect, right? In different ways. Right. And I took Jose Tena because he's Juan Uribe's nephew, I believe. But he also
hello.
He also is a lot like him at the plate. So listen to this. Tena is built. I think this is Loganhagen that says this, but it says Tena is built to hit for average, but he's too aggressive at the plate, repeatedly chasing off-speed pitches down in the zone and struggling to catch up to good fastballs at the top. And he makes too much weak contact while rarely walking. I forget if that's MLB or if that's Fangraphs, but either way, it sounds bad. But I mean, I think if you're looking to improve on defense, like they've said, right? Yeah. Like this is a guy who could play shortstop, and he's probably a really good second baseman defensively. Yep. There's other
totally
guys
blocked.
There's other guys on. Yeah. So Rocchio and Jimenez are blocking everybody, right? Because that's going to be the middle infield for all intents and purposes. That's the likely. Tyler Freeman's had more. They've given him more runway in the pros. You've also got Gabriel Arias, who's coming off an injury. That was initially who I was going to trade for, and then I was like, I don't need another guy with an injury coming over to the Sox. I've already got 50 trades with that, and the Sox are terrible about doing this already, signing free agents like, the guy's neck is broken, but I'm sure it'll heal up and it'll be great. So I tried to avoid that, and then I think Juan Brito's the other guy that's still there too. And there's others, right? Like they have more behind that, and so I just kind of looked at what could a trade look like where you're grabbing one of those middle infielders and you're giving them a guy who's looked bad for you, and once he gets into their system will definitely be great and destroy us on an ongoing basis. And Kai Busch felt like that. Kai Busch definitely felt like, the Guardians will fix him.
Stinks here, but it'll be great.
And it'll basically be Tristan McKenzie for the rest of his career.
I mean, you don't have to sell me on trades where the White Sox get more athletic and better with the glove, because I think our minds are both focused there after hearing Josh Barfield say that, and just after watching the piece of shit defense the Sox had. Even when they won the division in 2021, the defense wasn't that good, and there's a lot of areas where you can get a lot better faster, and that's how the 2008 Rays kind of shot the moon. They got real good on defense, and then they got enough hitting and enough pitching where it ran. Now, I'm not saying the White Sox are going to go from 61 wins to, the World Series, but 61 wins to 75 wins with a lot of good defense could certainly happen.
That's a good comment on Tana in Uribe. His nephew has better plate discipline than his kid. This is for me, and that's unfortunate. Because we already have.
I pulled up his kid's stats, and then people were yelling at me because I'm looking at it I'm freaking out about it. I was like, well, this guy, it might just not be a player, Juan Uribe Jr. It's okay. That's fine. I love his dad, no matter what. All right. Next trade, Treasy, this is also you, and this is with the Royals. So go ahead.
So here's the thing. Everybody in their offseason plan is going to trade for Salvador Perez, and I had initially when I wrote this up, I had Salvi and Moncada switching spots, and I thought everyone's going to talk about Salvi trade, and so what I went with was a Brady Singer trade, and Brady Singer, he didn't have a good year last year, and he's going into his ARB years, but Brady Singer was liked by some people in the org when they drafted Madrigal. Those guys, I don't know if those guys still are in the org or not. So maybe there's guys that are like, this is who I wanted originally. There's definitely guys from the Royals in our org. So they might already have some feelings about Singer. But Singer does two things that I care about. He throws a lot of ground balls. And if they are serious about getting better defensively, that's going to be good. And the other thing is he doesn't walk a lot of people. Even this year when he was bad, he didn't walk a lot of people. The thing that was down for him was strikeouts, and
Yeah.
he gave up a lot of hits because he wasn't striking people out. He just still didn't walk anybody. Like he walked some people, but if you're thinking about to your White Sox brain, what you saw this year, his walks were similar to Clevenger's, right? It wasn't a lot of walks.
Right.
He just gave up a lot of contact and gave up a lot of hits. Now, if you got a really elite defense behind him, that could be a guy. So I think that there's something there, and if Bannister likes him, great. To send over, I figured with the Royals feel like a volume dealer when it comes to
Yeah, looks like it here.
prospects, and so I took 3 guys that our guy Ian over at White Sox Daily loved, and just got them out of here. So it's Wilfred Veras, Carlos Perez, and Jose Rodriguez. And the Carlos Perez thing, to me, is I feel like Salvi's going to move away from catching. Like he's going to be a lot of first base DH. And you've got your starter already in Freddie Fermin. Like he's good as hell.
Right.
I thought of ways to trade for him.
Not happening.
We don't got the trade capital.
Right.
And then Carter Jensen's he's not ready yet, right? Like so this Carlos Perez could be a bridge there. Wilfred Veras is interesting. I think there's a good power profile there. He's a good hitter, it looks like, and he's a guy that like probably would not play the outfield in KC, but maybe they feel like he could. And then Jose Rodriguez, right now feels like a glove first speedster, and isn't that what the Royals just always only have? So like I feel like that's kind of a fit. So I don't know. I thought it was a nice package, a nice enough package to pull a guy that's going into his going to be in his arb years, getting paid more and more, and the Royals don't like to spend money, so felt reasonable. I don't know, Beef. How do you feel about that trade?
Initially looking at it, it feels a little heavy. As far as like you gave 3 guys that I don't know if any of them ever become regulars, but at least 2 of them are probably usable in the major leagues like right away, and one of them might be in a bit. But then again, like I think the upside for any of them is minimal. So maybe that's totally fine because you're like, okay, like you said, volume deal here. Take a bunch of these guys. You probably can plug most of these guys in quickly. Because there's not really a lot of stuff blocking it. Veras a little bit more than the others because they got Pasquantino at first, and they have kind of some of the no glove bat players already there, so maybe he would be backed up. But yeah, I mean they'd be able to use Perez right away and Jose Rodriguez Popeye right away. Let's get to a drink. Chuck says, "Here's to the brothers sipping Vino Blanco." Yeah, cheers, bless your heart, Chuck. Thank you.
Yeah, Beef. I knew I was coming on. I got grab the white wine, so I grab a bottle.
Yes.
And I bring it into the office and I start pouring it. And I look at the bottle, and it says vegan friendly on it. Beef is. I don't know a lot about wine. Are there a lot of meat filled white wines out there? Because if there are, I'm kind of want to try it.
There might be something in the production where they're not all vegan. It may be something used in that. I'm not exactly sure. I'll have to find
probably maybe no fertilizer. Maybe no fertilizer. So that I'm kind of out on that. I need
But with Singer, I guess your downside is like 5th starter because he kind of has made some starts. Like he hasn't given you all 32 starts, but 2021, 27, 2022, 24, 2023, 29. So I mean, as a 5th starter, you get to the mound that much, and he's given 128, but then 153, 159 innings. So like totally reasonable. Yeah, I mean, I like it. If the White Sox could turn some of the bulk minor leaguers into an actual major league starting pitcher, that would be great. Like do that a couple times if you could.
I would love, and I hopefully we get this because like sometimes we do get this from some of the different teams that like their fans see these things. I would love to hear what a Royals fan thinks about this. Like, are they down on Singer, or are they kind of like Singer's going to bounce back and it's going to be good? I don't know. So I would love to hear what they have to say about it.
I'll tell you what, Ian says they don't have too much in the minors, in my opinion. I think they'd really like to steal. They might like to bulk up. So, all right, last one in the AL Central, and this one's mine. I'm trading the Detroit Tigers Andrew Benintendi, and I'm getting back Javier Baez, Tyler Madison, and Gage Workman. But the thought here with the Tigers, they had all kinds of problems with Baez last year. Everyone knows Baez. Baez is still above average defender at short, a terrific defender at second. he swings at everything. He'll swing at 50 cents first pitch. I mean, that's kind of how bad he is. And the one thing that the Tigers, as they're starting to ascend up the division, they're struggling for on-base percentage. And so currently they're like deploying someone like Akil Baddoo in left field, whereas Benny would take over there. He would immediately ramp up the on-base percentage, give you professional at-bats. The money is close, but Baez is owed about $30 million more over the next 4 years. So Benny's owed 67. I think Baez is owed 98. So that's why you get a couple prospects here. Gage Workman is a shortstop who, according to the Fangraphs, at third base, he'd be a 70 glove, basically. So the White Sox do need to get kind of better when it comes to defense. You only have one more year of Yoel Moncada. So if you have a guy like this who could play some short, but then the following year gives you like that dependable defense, allows you to move some of your bats around. Like your Brian Ramos can move somewhere else, into the outfield or over to first or DH. Maybe that helps the defense overall. And then Tyler Madison's just kind of one of these throw-ins that has stuff and no command. So that's a White Sox specialty. You kind of bring him in. I like the deal because I don't mind all of Baez's antics. If we're going to go to a major league, actually above average shortstop on defense, Tim Anderson killed this team last year, being the worst defender effectively, at least by defensive runs saved on defense at short. Baez is going to shore that up instantly. And I don't really have room for Benny. You can find an Andrew Benintendi on a 1 or 2 year deal all the time. So, Chorizy, where are you at with this deal?
Well, not to look too much into the next group, but I think we have a similar feeling on Benintendi. But so I think I traded for Baez last year, and I remember talking with someone this year in the stands, and they were kind of like laughing about Baez and the contract and all this, and yeah, he's probably not worth the contract. But when I look at Baez, like, that's a valuable guy to have on a team. He's not the cornerstone of your franchise.
No.
Right? And I think that's how the Tigers went out and signed him, is like, this is the guy, we're going to build around this guy. But if you have a guy who's a really good fielder, especially in the middle infield, and can crank out 20 home runs, you forget about the strikeouts and the poor on-base percentage and the sometimes stupid base running, right? Like,
Exactly.
Like, because he's sitting in the back of your lineup.
Right.
If he's in the 7th, 8th, 9th hole doing that, and he's giving you an elite glove, that's a great guy to have on your team. Yeah. And that's the kind of thing that, like, the Dodgers and Mets can afford to do. But the Sox should be able to afford to do that too.
Well, I was going to say, Chorizy, you bring up a great point, because back when the old man Illich was still alive in Detroit, they would just spend more money around him and say, okay, well, you know what? You didn't end up pulling up all of the bargain of the contract, but the glove's still good. We'll take the power. All right, just do your thing. But it's a catastrophe now with the children. The children, they don't, you know what I mean? I'm not to shit on the children of rich folks, but sometimes it turns out this way. And it's kind of like they're not willing to do that. They're not willing to put the envelope here. I agree with you. And the White Sox should be a team like that. They should be a team where it's like $20 million mistake at shortstop. Okay, at least one side of your profile is still good. Fuck it. We're going to spend some more. Don't worry. You just do what you do.
Exactly, Beef. Why, I don't know why they're trying to get it so fancy over in Detroit. Look, we don't want the weird calzone pizza at Little Caesars. Just give me a $5 hot and ready. All right, man? That's all we need.
Don't stick with the basics.
Don't try and get too fancy with the team. Just spend more money and fill in the spots around by us. All right? Exactly. What's wrong with you guys? But don't, because I want you to be terrible.
Let's get to a drink. Little Yumper says, salute, hermanos. Yeah, thank you.
Cheers.
Good to see you this past weekend, Yump. Yumper also says that Yumper, being a recovering Cubs fan, he says Baez can be a valuable player on your team, but he has to have people push him. Yeah, I mean, I get that there is a little bit of an issue of like his personality and kind of the way he is just himself. And you hope that you get in kind of with the right group here, and maybe some of these guys will be willing to push him, and maybe develop a good relationship with Pedro. Who knows? But I think it's worth the kind of gamble.
We've seen Pedro hold it all together this year. If there's one thing that he's done, it's build a culture, Beef.
Pedro built a culture. I look at Pedro like he cannot be worse than he was last year, could he? that's what I tend to look at him. So I guess we'll see. All right, we'll move on to the AL Central. And we're going to move over to the NL East now. We got 5 more trades left to go. Trade number 1 is mine, and it is with the Atlanta Braves. And I'm trading Michael Kopech to the Braves for Jared Schuster. Okay. Now, this trade, I feel like if I'm lining up actual talent, Kopech is the more talented piece of this trade, and I don't think it's even close. However, Kopech's much maligned in White Sox lore. He had all the prospect pedigree. He shows up. He looks like an Adonis in 2018. Then he gets hurt. Tommy John surgery, misses the year. 2020 rolls around. He decides that he's going to sit out the year. 2021, a dynamo out of the bullpen, obviously, because he hadn't worked up the innings. They push him over to a starting pitcher where it's thought he's going to be an ace, and that just has not worked out. Not to mention, as far as like his mental side, he's had relationships with starlets that have peaked and valleyed, and he's had all kinds of kind of like, is his head in the game type stuff. And even the average fan who goes there kind of with lots of players, this is a player where it's fair and it's been set out in public. Like, he's got to kind of get his head right. I think he's the kind of like change of scenery guy where the White Sox can probably get more for him than he might actually be worth to our roster at this point. However, I'm not sure Jared Schuster is a high-end talent here. He's one of Atlanta's like group of major league ready starting pitchers that is just kind of like a guy, a 4th or 5th guy. He's a lefty. He's 25 years old. He has an excellent slider. He does not throw real hard, but he's got terrific command. So I mean, it reminds you of a certain lefty that pitched in Chicago that was terrific with that profile there. But it is an actual living, working starting pitcher where you don't need to do anything. You can just plug him right in, and he might be your 4 or 5 starter. So Chorizy, what do you think of this deal?
This is actually a great deal to juxtapose against the next one that we have coming up, because like it's the opposite of what I'm doing and with the Mets. You're trading the more volatile, higher risk, high reward thing for a safer bet.
Yes.
Right? Like, Schuster's a safer bet. Like, you know what you're kind of getting. The floor and the ceiling aren't very different from one another.
No.
And you're going to land somewhere in there. And I think if you're just looking to shore up the pitching rotation a little bit and go like, I just need the 4th starter is not, I don't need him to be ace-like.
Yeah.
But I also can't have him walk everybody or give up 1,000 home runs.
Can't lead the league in walks. How about that? Just the 4th starter.
Right. And
just like, make the starts and don't lead the league in walks. That's all we're asking for here.
Yeah, it's like you finally got over 100 innings, but you almost gave up 100 home runs. Like that's you don't want that volatility when you're a team going, we're going to be built on defense and we're going to do all the things right fundamentally. That's the culture you're trying to build here. You don't need that guy. You don't need the guy that like, right. Don't matter how good your fielders are. That ball's 600 feet. So I get it from that standpoint. I like that. I'm not as risk averse. So I'm always going to want to go for like the higher risk. Yeah. I'd rather gamble on Kopech than bring in a guy who's Schulten's like plus.
I mean, also the disparity here too is in control, right? You have Kopech is in ARB year 2, so you'll have him this year and then the following year. And the Braves are in a kind of win now, so either they can use them if they could figure him out as a starter. Obviously, that's extremely helpful. If not, he's a dynamo in the bullpen. They got knocked out of the playoffs basically because the pitching didn't hold them up against a tough Phillies team, and they had injuries or whatever. So they need more guys like this, not the bulk starters. The bulk starters help you get through the season, and the big swinging dicks are the ones that help you get through the playoffs generally. So it's kind of like with this guy, with Schuster, you got 6 years, right? Obviously, it in some ways when I made the trade, it feels a little bit light, but you also got to look at what Kopech has done. Like the last 2 years of Kopech are just like whatever, and last year was horrible. Like that was a very bad year. It's like I don't know what you can get for him in the open market. It felt like a ready-made starter might be the limit of what someone would give up for him.
I don't disagree with the return. I think that you're right on what we would get returned. I'm just wondering if I would want to bet that.
Yeah,
you know
whether or not you'd take it or not. So okay, makes sense. Next trade up is you, and it is the New York Mets.
What's funny is I have the old trade up as I'm looking at this, and it's what. Um, but yeah, so I had Benintendi for Starling Marte. And my thought here is the exact opposite of what you just went through, Beef. So I think Benintendi for the Mets who need kind of a stabilizing factor with the wild variance they've been getting from their players. Yeah. Benintendi feels like a kind of a safe bet. He'll probably come back closer to a 100 OPS plus guy. He plays a mediocre left field. That's what you're getting, right? You're getting the safer bet. Contract's longer. It's cheaper in the short term. I don't think the Mets care because
it's the Mets.
They use that money to light cigars. But in Starling Marte, like he didn't really play much this year. He had he came in with a groin injury. He left with a groin injury. They have no idea what his timeline is. He couldn't make it back by the end of the season. They pretended like he was almost there. He could get through 5 innings of a game. As a player, I don't know how that's a thing, like a position player. So that was weird. So I'm not sure how injured he is. But if he comes back healthy, the sky's the limit on that kind of guy, even though he's like 35. So you could really get a lot out of a guy like that. And so I don't know that this gets done, but it gets done if they want a safer bet to our more volatile bet in Starling Marte.
Yeah. And it's funny. The comments are all in on this. Ian said, I would do this in a heartbeat. And Tadahito said, do this trade immediately. It's funny because when I saw this trade in the drafts, or I saw you had sent it over last night, because this is the last one we were working on, because it's the hardest one. Like out of this group, it's the hardest trade partner as far as like what you do. I immediately thought I would not do this trade because Starling Marte is 35. He might be cooked. Like
you might get nothing.
35 and a guy who's predominantly a speed player, he might be finished. Like you might show up and be a -1 WAR player and just be total garbage out there. Like that's my concern there. I don't think Benintendi will be that. I agree with you though. There is the possibility that Marte shows up completely healthy. It's a 3.5 win right fielder, and it's like, holy shit, you aced this trade right here because I don't think Benny's got that upside anymore either.
There's no in between.
Not at all.
Like you win this trade wildly or lose it horribly. Like there's and like you're paying $40 million over the next 2 years to 41 or whatever it is
to figure it out.
2 years, and Benny's at 30 something for those next 2 years. So like you win on the money long term, but in the short term, that's gonna hobble you, especially if Jerry's trying to cut payroll.
That's true. That's true. It feels like a trade you make when you're about like at 79 to 82 wins, and you're like, we need a little push over the top. We need to fucking add the volatility here. Ian in the comments says, the positive of this trade is you don't have to watch Benintendi. That's so true. Watch him play defense on a daily basis. At 108, we don't have a great view of the strike zone. It's hard for us to see if something's outside or whatever. But outfield play, we can see real well. And Benintendi, he's not fun to watch. He just never gets a good jump on a ball. It's terrible.
I will tell you, Beef, the guy that I try, and you know this, I tried a million different combinations to get Jeff McNeil on this team. And Jeff McNeil's not great, but he has so much utility to that team. Even though Ronnie Mauricio is pushing him out of second base probably, he plays every position well enough, and he hits well enough that he's just, why would they get rid of him? Like I couldn't come up with a reason for them to get rid of Jeff McNeil.
He's got like a minuscule strike. All right, you're right. He is the type of guy that ends up not being in the starting lineup every day, like with a set position, but gets 450, 500 plate appearances and hits 320 for you because he just is a good bat, and you can plug him in a lot of places where he won't embarrass himself. Like that, that's what the guy is.
At the end of the season, they were giving Ronnie Mauricio as much run as they could at second base, right? Like to try and figure out, and he played shortstop too, to try and figure out, is this a guy that we want on our team? And McNeil played like 5 different positions, all of them with like positive outs above average. Like
It's
it's
amazing.
I want
That's
that guy on our
Ben's over
team.
shit.
We don't have the prospect capital to get that guy.
Right. And yeah, Tadahito's right. Wasn't McNeil a free agent? Yeah, he was out there. Anyone could have gotten him. There were a lot of people who wanted him. Sox people who wanted McNeil. I remember the whispers of McNeil though was something about like he had a bad attitude or some shit. He got into it with Lindor or some shit like that. I think was the thing, right? Yeah.
The thing too though is that McNeil is probably overpaid for what he is at this point in his career.
Yeah.
Because the Jets.
Jets money line miracle yesterday, Chorizy.
Yeah,
Miracle.
I was watching it. I loved it. The Mets. The Mets have done that, right? Like they will overpay for a guy that they want. And they knew him and they knew what they were buying, and they paid more than anyone else would, and that's what makes him feel tradable. But then when you dig a level deeper, they're not going to get rid of him, and that was the problem. So I went with Marte. I had to go big contract. You got to swing money around when you're talking the Mets.
Yeah.
So I that's the way it went.
Well, I think we have to do a wide variety of things in these deals in general, and we have that feel. Sometimes it's time to do this. Sometimes it's time to trade a big player. Sometimes it's time to trade some small stuff. So, like, yeah, I'm appreciative that you did this, and we got Benintendi in 2 deals already. Probably won't get into another one, but we'll actually see. Let's get to a drink. And Nathan Sheba says, other than strikeouts and the batting average and OBP, you just described the object of my affection, Lurie. Cheers. Bless your heart. Thank you.
He's what they thought Lurie was. That's McNeil is what they signed Lurie to be in that last contract.
They should bring Lurie back, man. He's still under contract.
Jeez.
Theoretically. Couldn't hit anymore, though. I think he's cooked.
Probably better than what we had at any of these positions.
He's more than
Speaking
likely.
of like right field beef was like
Yeah.
for the Sox, it was something wild, like -17 defensive runs saved.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Like even Starling Marte hurt will be better than that.
That's true. I'm almost all upside with some of these trades because it can upgrade whatever position we're going after. All right, now this is a weird trade, and like I don't know that it's going to be loved, but my trade with the Marlins, I traded Peyton Paulette, who's a known starting pitcher, was a high draft pick, and I'm trading him for Nasim Nunez. Now Nasim Nunez is actually playing in the Arizona Fall League right now. The reason why I picked him is because he's a 70 glove at shortstop. And I wanted to go through, and I did this for a few guys, and these may pop up in my Sox Machine offseason plan. If the White Sox are serious about improving defense, go get yourself a glove. Now, Nunez, he has good patience at the plate, but probably as a major leaguer, they will knock the bat out of his hand because he just doesn't have enough power. But he's patient, he's a speedster, and he also is a good glove. It doesn't have a great arm, but the range and the highlight reel work at short and at second is really what you're buying here. You're just buying, you know what you're buying? You're wishing that you're buying like Ozzie Guillen light, basically, by doing a deal like this. Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're not going to get that level of player, but like just a nicely above Adam Everett, maybe. You know, where there's no bat there to speak of, but a really good shortstop is what you're kind of hoping you're buying there. And in Major League Baseball, they don't do that a lot anymore. But the White Sox are primed for doing this because they don't have a ready shortstop. And even when Colson Montgomery gets here, I'm not sure if he's actually a shortstop. I think there's some question about whether or not he's a shortstop. So I'm trading for the best glove that I could find in the minors that's not a top 100 prospect. That is kind of like the team already looked at him and said, no, we'll put Joey Wendell or other such numbskulls at shortstop for the season. We prefer to have some bat and less glove work. So I'm taking a gamble here. I'm trying to go with something like that. What do you think about a little bit of an avant-garde trade here? Because it's not, let's assume no offense. This is glove only.
I love it. And here's why I love it. They're saying they want to go defense first, right? And do it. Show me what defense first looks like. If you want to race to getting a better team, defense first is the way to go.
Absolutely.
Right? And I will never be mad at you, Beef, for trading a very young starting pitching prospect. They hit about as often as I hit the lottery. So never. So like I think a lot of people will be like, no, you can't give him up. The upside's so good. And it's like,
yeah,
you know what? Like most pitching prospects flame out. right? Like
Yeah.
I'm not really too worried about giving up a pitching prospect. So I like that part of it. I will always like that part of it. But man, we've watched so much terrible defense.
Oh,
just give me one guy who's just a ridiculous glove on the infield. I mean, like watching Yoan Moncada play third base is beautiful compared to the rest of like what we've had in the infield. So like I think I'd be down for this, Beef. Let's do it.
Let's take a gamble. Glove only. Not a name, but glove only. All right, next trade is yours, and it is with the Nationals.
So, we talked about, Beef, like why we do this, right? And like getting to know all the rosters of the other teams. And oh dear, the Nationals are in trouble, man. I mean, like
they got some young talent, no?
I mean, they do, but like even guys that I was like, oh, this guy was supposed to be a prospect, man. Let me see what he's doing. And it's like Victor Robles, and it's like they might non-tender Victor Robles.
Right. I'm upset you didn't trade for him anyway. Doesn't matter.
Carter Kieboom, I was like, oh yeah, he was supposed to be. Oh my goodness, what is this? And then you look at like other guys too, like that have been good for them, like a guy like that they traded for, Lane Thomas. Like, okay, this guy can hit. It's all right, and it's like can't really get on base. Pretty bad in the outfield. Like, we don't need more of that, And so I'm like kind of just scouring their whole team and just kind of wondering, like, is there someone that makes sense here? And this guy came up, and it's an interesting little bit here. So Stone Garrett, by the way, love the name. Big fan of the name. It's a cool name. But he's been bouncing around different minor league orgs. Yeah. And he went to Arizona in 2021. And now he didn't stay there that long, but it seems like while he was there, he learned how to get on base. Because his on-base percentage was horrible, and then it bumped up. And then when he was with the Nats, small sample size, but he had like a 343 OBP.
Good.
And so the question is, has he figured something out in terms of getting on base? And if he has, not only would that be good for the Sox who can't get on base, but it'd be great to see someone who couldn't get on base, who can now get on base around the other guys and kind of go like, Lenine, this is possible.
Exactly. I did this. You can do this.
And so he's a plus defender in left, and he's okay in right because he doesn't have a great arm. But he's also 28 on a team that's like everybody's 22. Yeah. So like I don't know that he fits with them. So like to me, he's like not a great player by any means, right? But I think he could be a fit for the team. Yep. And he's controllable till I think 3,000. So like it's going to be cheap, and I think you could get him for like a kind of a middling prospect. I put Seth Keener here.
Yep,
right-handed pitcher for the Sox. Some people like him. Some people think he doesn't really end up in the pros. That's the kind of guy I think you could throw for him. I will mention
it's like waiver bait, basically. I mean, like
I said something earlier about the Sox not getting more guys that are injured. He did have a season-ending injury, so the speed is part of his game, but he did fracture his leg. So,
oh dear,
I'm a little nervous about that, but that could be he's fine.
I'm still mad at Stone Garrett because he was one of the guys. The goofy guys I never heard of that hit a fucking home run off Dylan Cease on that Sunday game when the Diamondbacks came in. They were horrible, and they beat the Sox 3-2 in a game that we had to win. And I went on Twitter. I'm like, Dylan Cease is not an ace. He's not our ace. And people were piling on me, Beef, you're a bad take, all this stuff. Of course, Dylan Cease had a shitty-ass year this next year. So I was right, of course. You guys are wrong. Stone Garrett broke him. Now we need to bring a Stone Garrett and Stone Gossard. We're bringing all the Stones in, and we're bringing them into the White Sox. It's going to make things
Beef,
better.
The question is to the people that were mad at you, who didn't think that was problematic.
Yeah.
Do they believe what I believe, and that Stone Garrett is very good, and we should have him?
I don't know. I guess we'll find out. We'll find out from something. The comments are lit up right now on this one. Ian says, Josh Barfield says, yes, this is one of his guys. And K-Dog says...
I was actually, what Ian said is what I was wondering. Is like, Would Barfield
one of
have
his dudes?
some kind of, yeah.
K-Dog says porn if baseball doesn't work out. And then Tadahito says Stone Garrett, porn star, White Sox. And then HBIC agrees, porn star. And K-Dog comes back and says traded from Brazzers to the White Sox. We should make White Sox to Brazzers. We'll let MSS handle that. We're not gonna do that. We'll stick to the major league teams. But I like the idea because infuse more power into the roster. Like, I'm at the point where it's just like, let's get either good defense or get someone who's going to blast home runs. Like, that's where I'm at with watching this team, right? I understand your perfect player would be someone that has a great walk rate or whatever. But we're at the point where we've just watched one of the shittiest seasons of White Sox history. I just want them to be watchable. I just want to show up and have a watchable game. That's all I want, Chorizy. And so more defense and more home runs is where it's at. So I actually really like this trade. And I think if you made a trade like this and you still had Benintendi on the roster, you'd figure out ways to make the playing time work. Or you'd figure out a way to trade one of the first base DH guys, and you'd let this guy DH some of the time too. And just make sure you get the power into the lineup. So. I really like that idea right there.
Thank you. I'm glad you believe in my great ideas.
All right, last trade. This is mine, and this is with the Philadelphia Phillies. And I'm trading Gregory Santos, someone who I thought should have been traded at the deadline. And mind you, I'm a big Gregory Santos fan. I really liked the acquisition when they brought him in. He came along right away. He's one of the top stuff plus guys on the White Sox. He's got like a top 3, top 5 slider out of stuff plus, out of qualified relievers in 2023. But you know what though? Relievers are so volatile. Get something if you can for those guys. And in return here, and the Phillies, they got sunk by their bullpen, right? Craig Kimbrell killed them in the NLCS. And it's because they lack depth in that bullpen. They just have not been able to cobble together a good bullpen. I think they would pay a lot for Gregory Santos. And that a lot here is mainly Carlos de los Santos. So it's Santos for Santos. Carlos de los Santos, Chorizy, believe it or not, is 6'9" and can play a reasonable center field. So he has the glove. He has the power, but being 6'9", you do have the K rate. He spent the full year at AA last year, 27.5 K rate. He did have over 9% walk rate though, so there is some potential here. It's tough to develop kind of big guys like this, but I think I want to take a big swing if we're going to trade Gregory Santos. I want to take a swing on a guy that if he makes it, this is you really fucking nailed something here. Andrew Schultz is just like the next version of Gregory Santos. Can't find the plate. He's got a plus slider, a plus fastball. It's like develop another one and let's move on for the next thing. So what do you think about taking a gamble at a guy who's 6'9" and has a ton of pop for Gregory Santos?
I mean, Manute Bol with power sounds awesome. I'm kind of in on that. Beef. I'm gonna make a wager here now. I will tell everybody listening and everybody watching, we have not gone past these 2 divisions yet.
Correct.
So there's not more trades that we've put together. I'm gonna, even though we've got Benintendi twice in these 2 divisions,
yeah,
I think Santos ends up being the guy we trade the most.
I would agree with you.
I have no idea how we get past the Texas Rangers without trading Gregory Santos to them.
Yep,
but
very true.
But yeah, I think we feel the same way about relief pitchers of don't sign them to big contracts.
Yep.
If they are really good, this is the best time to trade them, that kind of thing. I mean, last year we were trading Liam Hendricks for Adolis Garcia, right?
Right.
Well,
yeah.
Liam Hendricks plus.
Yeah.
Liam Hendricks plus. Because there was definitely more than that.
Your deal was Liam Hendricks and Brian Ramos for Adolis Garcia, and you make out handsomely on that deal. But at the time, that's a very fair deal.
Oh yeah, I'm let's say Liam Hendricks is healthy this year. The Rangers could have definitely used him. The Rangers probably win that division hands down if they had Hendricks.
There's Liam, a healthy Liam, for sure.
So the high leverage relief pitcher, very valuable across the league. Also very volatile year to year. So I think I'm fine with any deal that we have with him, especially if you get something where you feel like you might really hit the jackpot on. And De Los Santos is someone like that, right? De Los Santos could, let's say he doesn't stick in center field. We don't need him to.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
If he plays a really good right field and hits 25 home runs and gets 4 or 5 fast break dunks, I'm like, I'm in.
The Bulls can use him in the offseason.
Exactly. They can use a lot right
You
now.
get on the offensive boards for them. That's absolutely. All right. Tracy, thank you for working on these trades with every team blogs a video for the 4th year. This is our 4th year doing it. We are the White Sox Twitter industry leader on this. Remember, we ain't trying to be right on the show. We're just trying to understand. Before you go, next week, what divisions do you want to do? What divisions? Let's put the pressure on ourselves. As we said, we have not done the other divisions yet. Let's put the pressure on ourselves for this next coming week. What divisions are we doing?
I think in honor of my Sox summer, who won't listen to this,
No.
we should go out west. We should do the NL and AL West. We'll do them both. I think we're trading Santos to the Rangers. We already got that locked down.
That's locked down.
But we got to get the other team. So yeah, I think those will be some fun divisions to go with. I think there's a lot of interesting trades on the West Coast.
For sure, and there's some fun teams to trade with. You know, the Dodgers and Diamondbacks and teams that some good teams out there. So
teams that will bury us in the trade.
Astros, that could be fun too. All right, thanks to all the 108 family. Everyone was up in the YouTube comments. Appreciate you smashing the like button, comments, and drinks, of course, and tips. We'll see you next week. Chorizy, thank you, my friend. I love you.